what goes in and so forth. And your presentation early on was truly trying to step back and go, what is our strategic rotation of this whole thing into how the world is changing? And they're very, very different issues.
Right, and that's what our industry is hard, because as journalists, we're wired to do a certain kind of thing. I mean, there's nobody, I mean, what other industry do you produce a brand new product every single day, home delivered for a quarter? I mean, it's an unbelievable process, and we're really great at that. But what we're not really, you know, and this has been part of the issues we've had at our retreat, is it's hard for us to step back because that's not how we're wired, and to try to look at the bigger picture and see, look for trends. We're good at doing that as it relates to covering stories, you know, and some of our best work is trend stories and what have you, but it's hard, for whatever reason, we have a hard time doing that for our own business, and that's the situation.
Let me go to, I promised the back row back here. Did you have something? Or maybe you're stretching, I'm sorry. I'll go back up front, right here.
Hey, Ari Hustel. I have two questions. One about social responsibility. We have problems here in Los Angeles or in Southern California of gangs, homelessness, economy which is somewhat faltering. Mm-hmm. Where do you see yourself as a leading paper that reaches, as you said, some 3 million people maybe over the weekend, educating or promoting things like what the Anti-Defamation League does, less hatred, let's talk with each other, etc. Second question, you have an amazing logistical system and other resources. In case we have a major catastrophe, whether it's man-made, a terrorist attack, or it's a major earthquake, you have in your possession utilities that I think the government might not even have. And similar to the radio where we have a signal for emergencies, mm-hmm. Have you thought of using, I mean, you can distribute essentially, if we need inoculations distributed or something distributed to every household, you essentially can do it even if many others cannot because you do it every single day.
Well, that's an interesting question I've never faced before. Well, I'm not sure how to answer that one. Let me tackle the first part of it, which was the social responsibility stuff. I mean, that's something that we hold very near and dear. That's always been a part of journalism for the last 400 since newspapers were founded in this country. And that's the other thing that people are nervous about, and rightfully so, as the industry shrinks, is, are we going to stop doing our watchdog stuff? Are we going to try to stop talking about, you know, or if the drive to revenue is so great that we're just going to let the audience clicks tell us that they want more Britney stories and they don't care what's going on at City Hall. And that's something we feel is part of our mission, and that I you know, that's never going to change for us. With the homeless issue in LA, you know, Steve Lopez made that a huge issue 2 years ago, and it really mushroomed, got out of hand, and we were, you know, the mayor reacted, the police reacted. We discovered that folks were being dumped, you know, down in that part of town, and we got those practices stopped. I hope you're noticing, we're covering the living daylights out of the downturn in the economy. That story is on the front page, you know, 4 days out of 7 or 5 days out of 7. It's on the business cover every week, and we're trying to find, you know, to be more relevant. We're getting away from barfing back to you the economic data and reports, and we're talking about real how people are dealing with it and living with these issues. That was one of the ones you mentioned. Gangs, which we've also spent a lot of time on. That's you know, an ongoing part of our coverage. So those are the things that we'll always keep doing.
We're going to go 10 more minutes. Question right here.
Yes, my name is Terry Quinlan, and when going back to this whole evolution of not thinking paper and thinking blog and thinking, like you mentioned, blog newsroom, and you mentioned video, and so it sounds like every reporter is going to be expected to shoot video as well as.
Well, that's actually not in our case.
Okay.
And we've got 300 and some reporters, and they can't all be having video.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Yeah.
We don't have the manpower to get all that video on the site.
Right.
We don't have the manpower to make sure those are all high quality video.
Uh-huh.
And we need people to be writing stories because we still have this big thing called the paper that we get stories
Right.
every day.
So you're saying some writers will shoot
I
video.
think we bought 65 cameras last year, so we'll have some portion of the staff will do that. We also buy a lot of video, and again, to the point about we want to try to be unique. A lot of newspapers are out with their reporters are taking pictures of potholes around town and doing some of that sort of stuff. And we're not, I don't think we're ready to go there. I don't think our readers are expecting that from us. We're trying to have the video folks be paired up on beats where there's a lot of enterprise reporting and big issue stories where we can really, where the video, and the one that was our best example so far was the Altered Oceans series that ran 2 years ago that won the Pulitzer Prize. It was the only entry in that category that had a full-blown multimedia presentation with a video. Was spectacular.
Do you think that made a difference in winning the award?
Personally, I think it was the thing that set it apart from the rest of it. The series was great to begin with, but what separated it from the competition was this unbelievable multimedia presentation that went along with it. So that's the kind of, we're going to be selective about how we do that, but you will see a lot more of it on the site in the coming months as we are starting to expand our.
And do you expect that to be at the bureaus as well, like from Orange
Yes.
County and Riverside?
Yep. And in Washington D.C., I was in D.C. a few weeks ago, and our 3 people came up to me and said, "When do I get to be trained on video?" So
And
that's
what
good.
format are you using for the video and what edit systems?
I have no idea.
That's tactical.
And what's the Sorry. I should know what our video player is. I probably did several months ago, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Who hasn't asked? I can't remember. Let me get this one back here, if you don't mind. Back here, White.
Hi, Russ. Daryl Cooney Television. Just
He's the plant.
in the interest of being truthful, I work at the paper with Russ, but I'm not a reporter or an editorial. But I am known as the guy that took Steve Lopez fly fishing. So my question to you, Mr. Editor, is we've moved the paper kind of indoors a lot with things like Image or with blogging and such. You're a guy from the Central Valley, from Visalia, right next to Sequoia. You probably grew up doing outdoors things. We lost our outdoors section. We lost a lot of interest from the average male out there, whether young or old, an X Games guy or a hunter or a fisherman. Have you thought about helping Pete Thomas and his one-man outdoor writing?
Yep. Yeah, that was. I hated seeing us kill the outdoor section. That was we had finally. It had been going about 3 years, and that had evolved to, I thought, a really terrific section, but it didn't attract a lot of advertising. There was almost no advertising in it, which was unfortunate. So we still have a lot of material. I don't think I hate to use these words, but we haven't repurposed on the site in particular, and that's one of the areas we're looking at as we're doing sort of a top to bottom review of all the paper, but in particular the feature sections of something. We have to figure out a way to bring that back. You will see in the coming weeks, we've been playing around with the guide and trying to make that a broader, you'll start to see some outdoor stuff creep into that in the weeks ahead too. So yeah, there's a reason 18 million people live here is because it's a great place, great weather, and lots of stuff to do outdoors. And we do, across the paper, we do a lot of outdoor coverage, but that's one of the things we're also struggling with is that if you were to get into our database and punch in the outdoors, we probably wrote 50 stories about the outdoors last week, but they're spread out over a bunch of sections, and sometimes as a reader you don't really notice or appreciate that we're doing that much. And that's what the beauty of the web provides, is we can repackage that stuff and put it in a spot that does that. So that's something.
Let's do 3 more. We'll start. I know you haven't asked one. We'll start right here.
Yeah, okay.
Hold on, then we'll come right here.
Oh, it's Ross.
This poor guy gets a question before.
It's Ross Johnson. I find it very interesting. You've traveled a lot looking at other operations, website operations. From what you've seen, what were the best newspaper websites that were successful at monetizing all this effort, and how did they do it?
Well, that's been a big challenge. One of the most surprising things about the European trip was they haven't been able to monetize it. We've actually monetized it really well. The U.S. papers, I think ourselves and the Post and the New York Times in particular, and the Journal, which has the benefit of that great subscription model, which they're the only ones in the world who can get away with that, and the Financial Times. For all the great progress that the European papers have made, they haven't really been able to cash in on it, and I'm not sure why that is. But that's if I knew the answer to that question, I'd be sitting on my house in Malibu overlooking watching the sunset right about now. That's the $1 million thing we're all trying to figure out. is how to do
Couldn't
that.
you get away with subscription content with the Lakers or the Dodgers or some of the sports content?